It all started with a leak, a confidential memo from the Department of Justice that found its way into the hands of a Washington journalist. The memo detailed a preliminary criminal inquiry into financial misreporting and alleged misuse of public funds linked to New York Attorney General Letitia James. No names were meant to be public yet, but within hours, every cable network had it on their ticker. Letitia James, who had long positioned herself as one of the fiercest legal adversaries of Donald Trump, was suddenly in the crosshairs. And Trump? He wasted no time. That evening, standing on stage in Tampa at a packed rally, Trump raised his hand and pointed to the jumbotron flashing, breaking, criminal case launched against Letitia James. He smiled. "I told you." He shouted. "I told you from day one, corrupt to the core." The crowd erupted. But behind the scenes, things were far more complicated, and far more dangerous than anyone realized. Letitia James wasn't just facing a political scandal. She was being hunted. Letitia James sat alone in her Manhattan office, the skyline dimmed by thick evening fog. Her phone buzzed every few seconds, reporters, donors, staffers panicking. She ignored them all. Instead, she called the one person she trusted in Washington, former Deputy AG Eliza Grant. They hadn't spoken in months. "Eliza, I need to know who authorized the leak," Letitia said sharply. There was a pause. Then, Eliza's voice came back low, controlled. "You've been marked, Tish. This isn't about misreporting. This is about Trump. He's got allies burrowed into DOJ, and they want you off the board before November." Letitia exhaled slowly. Her legal campaign against Trump had exposed too many connections, too many bank transfers, too many shell companies. And now, this. "Is it official?" Letitia asked. "Are charges coming?" "They want to indict," Eliza said. "The feds out of Virginia. Quiet, strategic. No cameras. They're building it backward to make it stick." Letitia leaned back, her mind already scanning for escape routes. Outside her window, a black SUV had been parked for over an hour. She noticed it now. This wasn't political anymore. It was personal. And she wasn't going down alone. Meanwhile, at Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump was watching it all unfold like a scripted show. He sipped from a glass of Diet Coke as an aide handed him a folder marked, "Confidential, New York Developments." Inside were details only someone with deep intelligence ties could have secured: communications between DOJ officials, sealed warrants in preparation, and surveillance notes from agents tracking Letitia's movements. Trump's eyes narrowed. "She thought she could humiliate me on national TV. Raid my businesses. Drag me through courtrooms like I was nobody." He looked up at his aide. "Now she gets to feel what that's like." "But sir," the aide said carefully, "if this turns out to be traced back to our donors, it could blow back." "I don't care," Trump snapped. "She started this war. We're just finishing it." He turned toward a private security consultant waiting by the door. "Send the message. And get that footage ready." "What footage, sir?" the consultant asked. Trump grinned. "The one where she slipped up. The meeting at the Carlyle Hotel. The wrong person was in the room." The consultant nodded and vanished. It was clear now, Trump wasn't just reacting. He had been planning this for months. And Letitia James? She was walking straight into a trap. Letitia James paced in her apartment, blinds drawn, her phone pressed to her ear. "Eliza, they're pushing something, a narrative. Trump said something last night about the Carlyle Hotel. That's from 2 years ago." There was a pause. Then Eliza responded, calm but urgent, "That meeting wasn't supposed to be recorded. It was off the books." Letitia froze. That meeting. The night she sat down with a whistleblower, an ex-banker from Palm Beach with links to Trump's family foundations. The man had evidence: ledgers, offshore wire transfers, silent partnerships with foreign nationals. It had been explosive, but unverifiable. And now it was coming back, weaponized. You said no one else was in the room, Letitia said quietly. There wasn't. Unless, Letitia felt the dread rise in her throat. Unless someone planted surveillance. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Watch this. You'll know what comes next. Attached was a video. She opened it. It was grainy, but unmistakable, her voice. Her face. The room. The whistleblower. The moment she nodded, when he said the words, "We'll bury him." Quietly. It was clipped. Out of context. But damning. And within 10 minutes, it was live on Truth Social. Caption: Letitia James caught in secret plot to destroy Trump. Within the hour, every major network had the footage. Trump's base was already chanting online. Lock her up. But Letitia wasn't running. She was about to fight dirt with fire. By dawn, Letitia James had activated her own network. She met quietly in the back of a closed legal co-op in Brooklyn with 3 of the sharpest former prosecutors she trusted, people who'd left government precisely because they knew how deep the rot went. This isn't a legal case anymore, she told them, laying her phone on the table. It's a coordinated political takedown, and I want to go public. One of them, Julian Reese, leaned forward. If we go scorched earth, there's no turning back. You're not just exposing Trump. You're exposing parts of DOJ, state officials, maybe people in your own office. Letitia didn't blink. Then we burn it all down. She handed them a thumb drive. This is everything from the last 4 years, sealed subpoenas, informal testimony, financial trails they never expected me to find. I was building my own insurance folder. Julian plugged it into a secure laptop. As data loaded, the room fell into tense silence. Names scrolled across the screen, names no one ever expected to see tied to off-the-books donations, real estate laundering, and DOJ insiders leaking intel. Then Letitia said it, "We go live. Today. Noon. I want full transparency. If I'm going down, they're going with me." Meanwhile, in Florida, Trump's team caught wind of the plan. A rushed phone call went out to a private fixer on the East Coast. "Shut it down before she speaks," the voice ordered. But it was already too late. Letitia James had just scheduled a press conference, live on every major network, under the title, "The Evidence They Never Wanted You to See." At exactly 12 p.m., the cameras flicked on. Letitia James stepped up to the podium in front of the New York State Supreme Courthouse. The wind tugged at her blazer, but her face was steel. Dozens of reporters filled the plaza. Live streams were rolling. Phones were up. Trump's people were watching. DOJ insiders were watching. Even foreign intelligence agencies had tuned in. This wasn't just a press conference anymore. "I know what they're trying to do," she began, her voice echoing through the microphones. "But if they want war, they're going to get truth first." She held up a thick folder, labeled simply, "Unsealed." "For months, I've been investigating a pattern of corruption that extends beyond one man. What I found ties back to private deals, coordinated leaks, and targeted retaliation, including the case now being weaponized against me." She flipped the folder open. Then she read names. Names of sitting officials. Trump PAC operatives. Former DOJ lawyers turned lobbyists. Companies that had quietly funneled millions into shell nonprofits, many of them flagged internally but never pursued. The crowd was silent. Then she cued the screens behind her. One by one, documents appeared, wire transfers, emails, notarized memos, all cross-referenced with timestamps, IP addresses, and federal office activity logs. It was overwhelming. And deadly precise. The last slide hit hard, a photograph of the Carlisle Hotel meeting, the real one, showing a third person in the room. A DOJ agent. Known by name. Later promoted. Trump's team leaked a doctored clip, Letitia said. Here's what they didn't want you to see. The raw footage rolled. The whistleblower's words, unedited, "We can take this to the feds quietly, before he gets re-elected. It's not about politics. It's about criminal fraud." Letitia never said, "Bury him." The lie was exposed, live. And somewhere in Palm Beach, Trump stood up from his chair and shouted, "Shut it down. Now." But it was far too late. Chaos exploded inside Mar-a-Lago. Trump's legal team scrambled, phones ringing non-stop. Staffers huddled in corners, whispering. The raw footage had gone viral, even conservative networks were forced to acknowledge the discrepancy between the edited clip and the real one. The plan had backfired. Trump paced in his private study, red-faced, waving a folder. She had the original file. Why didn't we know she had it? His chief strategist, Dominic Mars, spoke carefully. "Sir, we assumed the original footage was lost. That leak wasn't supposed to be reversible." Trump glared. "I want her discredited. Indicted. Gone. But if we go any further," Dominic warned, "we'll expose the whole Carlyle operation. That agent in the footage, he was never authorized to be there. If she hands that to a federal judge, it opens a door we can't close." Trump stopped. For the first time in weeks, there was hesitation. He sat down slowly. "She's playing my game now." Meanwhile, back in New York, Letitia James left the courthouse surrounded by a rising tide of supporters, camera flashes strobing in every direction. But she wasn't celebrating. Inside her secure SUV, Julian turned to her and said, "This next part's going to be ugly." She nodded. "They'll come harder now. But at least we've exposed the first layer." "What's the next move?" he asked. Letitia stared out the window, voice steady, "Washington. We're not done." 3 days later, Letitia James walked into a closed-door congressional oversight hearing in Washington, D.C. The mood was electric. Reporters weren't allowed inside, but the tension in the Capitol was thick enough to taste. Some members of Congress were furious she was even allowed to speak. Others had cleared their schedules to witness it. She was sworn in under oath. And for the next 4 hours, Letitia laid out everything. The whistleblower's original testimony. The planted surveillance. The forged footage. The buried memos showing DOJ operatives being reassigned under political pressure. And finally, the Carlyle agent. An unredacted personnel file slid across the table, time-stamped. The same agent later involved in stalling investigations into Trump's overseas accounts. One congressman whispered, "If this is real, this doesn't just burn Trump. This torches half of K Street." It was real. By sunset, subpoenas were drafted. An emergency ethics probe into DOJ conduct was launched. Independent prosecutors began reviewing the footage in Letitia's files. Outside, the press swarmed. Letitia stood at the steps of the Capitol. A reporter shouted, "Do you think Trump will face charges?" She paused. Then answered, not with venom, but finality, "He opened the door. I just walked through it." Across the country, Donald Trump released a frantic video calling it all a witch hunt, but the tone had changed. Even some of his allies were distancing themselves. Panic was spreading. Letitia didn't need revenge. She had evidence. And Washington had finally started listening.